This episode is about whether things continue to exist when you're not observing them. Much like our friend René Descartes all the way back in episode 1, you may have wondered at some point in your life whether the physical world is really real. And in 1710, the Irish philosopher Bishop George Berkeley decided that the world did not exist.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Berkeley was arguing against the pretty intuitive position that there is a physical world independent from us. Things in the world exist and we pick up on them through our sense organs. By the way, Berkeley. Berkeley. Not Berkeley, even though Berkeley was named after him. Berkeley. So, think of it like this. When you observe something like a banana, you say that it has some properties. It's yellow, it's solid, it's curvy, and so on. The properties which you observe. And you also say that there is a substance, there is a physical thing distinct from us to which those properties belong, which we know about because we can detect those properties. Now, the properties themselves don't exist independent of us. Like, bananas aren't really yellow, they reflect certain wavelengths of light which we interpret as yellow. And if we have different kinds of eyes, then we'd interpret them as some other colour. The yellowness is just in here. Properties don't exist unless they're being observed by someone. But what is the substance? What is a banana that doesn't have any properties? Nothing, right? Now try and imagine something that exists independent of any perception of it. You can't, because as soon as you try, you think of some properties, and properties don't exist unless they're being observed. Like, I'm imagining a table and it's brown. Wait, no, it's not brown because nobody's there to see it, and it's kind of this sort of height. Wait, no, it doesn't have any height because there's no one there observing it. And when you say the table exists independently of me, for example, because it's in the other room, then what you really mean is if I were to go into the other room, I would experience the table. But if objects are just their properties, and properties only exist in our heads, then there isn't an actual physical world distinct from us. There's just us and our ideas. So things don't exist unless they're being perceived. This was Berkeley's mantra. To be is to be perceived. The physical world isn't real.
There is no spoon.
Okay, so far so crazy, but it's kind of difficult to accept that when you leave your house to go to work in the morning, the inside of your house stops existing until you come home.
That's impossible!
But Berkeley didn't mean that it literally disappears as soon as you turn your back. What he meant was that for it to exist in the first place means that it's being observed. To him, the idea of something that existed without being perceived just didn't make sense, because something that isn't being perceived doesn't have any properties. Okay, would you stop freaking out if I told you that there might be some ways out of this? For starters, we distinguish between appearance and reality. We say that the world can sometimes appear one way, but in reality, it's actually another way. Since Berkeley thinks that there is no real world independent of our perceptions, he's committed to saying that hallucinations and dreams are as real as anything else. So an elephant that you see in your dreams is as real as an elephant you see at the zoo. And if that sounds like a step too far, then maybe there's something wrong with the theory. Also, it seems like if we get our perceptions of the world wrong, then the physical world can actually impact us. Like, suppose I don't see that there's a car coming and I step out into the road. It must exist independently of me because even though I don't see it, it still knocks me down. Berkeley thought he had a way out of this, and since he was a bishop, it's kind of unsurprising which route he takes. Berkeley said that God guarantees that everyone's perceptions cohere. So I don't perceive the car, but the driver perceives me, and God guarantees that the car kills me because otherwise the driver would be extremely surprised when I phased right through his dashboard. This answer has some issues though. Obviously, it isn't going to work if God doesn't exist. And what if I'm fatally struck by lightning in the middle of nowhere so fast that I don't even perceive it? Whose perceptions is God guaranteeing then? Or what if I take LSD and my perceptions of the world are altered? Is God the one that guarantees drugs work? So Berkeley has some questions to answer. Maybe the physical world is like certain concepts in mathematics. We can't prove it, but it's very explanatory if we believe in it. It's a pretty interesting theory though, right? Still pretty eye-opening. What do you guys think? Does the physical world exist independent of our perception of it? What are things like without any properties? Leave a comment with your questions or suggestions and we'll answer them at the end of the next video. Favourite, share, tell your friends about PhilosophyTube. You can also follow us on Twitter, and when I observe the video statistics, it would be nice if some likes existed. Let's see what you guys had to say about morality and the future. 9 Factorial said that we can have obligations to future generations because we're meeting them every day. They're being born all the time. Nice try, but of course as soon as somebody's born, they're no longer a future person, they become a now person. So the question of whether or not we can have moral obligations to future people is still open. Jim Groff said that we should preserve the environment because we have an evolutionary duty to our children to make sure that they'll be alright. Yeah, that's a pretty good point. I would say, though, that's more of a practical duty than a moral one. And what about those of us who don't want or can't have children? Is it okay for them to mess up the environment? In our 100 subscribers celebration video, I asked you whether you would sign up to live in a virtual reality that would make you much happier if you didn't know that it was fake. Liam Sloggett said that we don't know we're not living in a virtual reality right now, so why not sign up for a nicer one? Michael Ruegrock said that he wouldn't go for it because of the value of things like integrity and sacrifice, not just happiness. But Max Gisman came back with a very nice reply and said, do you not just value those things because they make you happy? This lovely person, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, and no amount of Googling would help me, but they asked if I recommended any other YouTube channels for philosophy. I guess I'd recommend PBS Idea Channel and Vsauce, but when they do philosophy, they tend to touch on it lightly rather than dive right in. That's one of the reasons I made this channel, actually, is because there seemed to be a need for it. I'm also sorry that your textbooks are boring. I kind of know how that can feel. When I started out, it was my teacher that made the difference for me, not the textbooks. If there's anyone else in your class that would like these videos, then do tell them. The more the merrier. BBrucker2 asked if there was a button that I could press that would make it look as if I had twice as many subscribers as I did, would I press it? I don't think I'd go for it. I mean, it's not really about the numbers, is it? I care more that people enjoy it than about where I am in the top 10 subscribed channels list.
1, 2